This is why I wanted to learn to sail, to travel the world, soak in secluded hot springs with mountain views, find the best places to swim with clear water and nobody else in sight, challenge myself every day while having fun, explore rugged coastlines and see some of the biggest, wildest and most majestic animals on the planet. Okay, maybe some of the little ones too. But it takes work to achieve this kind of lifestyle, and by work, I mean boat work.
Welcome to day 2 of the massive adventure. This is a Balmer alternator. It's new and it doesn't work. This is a Balmer alternator. It's new, it works, but it has the wrong attachment point. So unfortunately, when we got this one, it didn't work. We were in such a hurry to get off the dock. Balmer sent us another one to install. We didn't do it before we left. We just opened it because it was cloudy all day today, so we figured, hey, the alternator could give us some power, and it doesn't fit. Even though the alternator here isn't generating power, we had to put it back in because it's attached to this pulley system that needs it to function, and this is the water system for the engine. So this does the engine cooling. So without this in, this doesn't work either, and the engine would overheat.
With the port engine back up and running and the forecast improving, we decided to head further north to Desolation Sound to soak up some sun and get some more jobs done.
We've made it to Desolation Sound. This is Pendrell Sound, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Coming up here was a little bit, we had some situations, let's just say. We got woken up with a nice gentleman blaring an air horn because our anchor was dragging. And as you've seen already, the alternator didn't fit, so we had some power issues. We've got lots of sun now, so that's resolving itself. Now there's just a bit of work left to do, and then we're gonna have some fun. So we gotta install this properly. It's our new chart plotter, and we're gonna put it in right over here. We've pre-cut these panels here. So there's the panels here, and we're just gonna glue this stuff up, fiberglass it up, and then we'll be able to drop in our chart plotter. The reason we're doing this is to change the angle because it was ridiculously hard to see before. Now that we're done here, it's all fiberglassed, well, epoxied. Just gonna clean up a little bit of the excess because it's always easier to clean when it's wet instead of when it dries and you have to sand it.
So I'm stuck down in what we call the dungeon today, trying to figure out how much fuel we've got in the fuel tank. Previous owner wasn't too sure and the tank had been changed out and now it's fiberglassed over the top so we can't even see the tank to have an estimate. So today's job is to get all the fuel out of the fuel tank into some jerry cans and try and figure out how much it holds. Hopefully it's going to be a lot because that'll be great for our world adventures. So here is the fuel line, this black one. We've put this on it today. Let's see where it's coming out. Really slowly, like a dribble. But my nice view is totally gorgeous.
Until today, we've been sitting on a crate. It hasn't been working because it's been breaking every time I sit down on it. More and more. So we're finally gonna put our helm seat in. We have it, we have the legs for it, and I've done a little bit of marking out, so I think I know how it works, but let's get started.
We've been holed up in the boat for a couple of days doing a bunch of little jobs and going for swims over on this side of the bay. Everyone else is anchored over the other side, so we're going to go on a little dinghy tour over there and take you over and see what's over there.
So way over there.
This was the barge supposedly abandoned by loggers years and years ago and just left in here to rot. Like a quadmaran?
Yeah.
A catamaran but quadmaran?
It's a broken moran.
I just want to celebrate.
All right, there's the rope swing. You ready?
Yep.
On your marks, get set, go!
There's magic coursing throughout my veins. I don't want it to stop. I feel invincible in every way. I'ma give it all I got. It may not be my birthday.
When we left Pendrell Sound, the starboard engine quickly died because we forgot to reattach the fuel line. This left a bunch of air in the fuel system, so we had to Google how to bleed the fuel lines, as we had never done this before. And the results were...
We did it!
We stopped in the town of Campbell River on Vancouver Island to swap alternators for one that fits. As the currents in these areas can get up to 13 knots, we had a very early start next morning to get the timing right. We passed over Ripple Rock, which was blown up in 1958 because Old Rip, as they called it, had cursed local mariners for centuries, claiming hundreds of lives. Blowing up Ripple Rock remains the world's largest non-nuclear peacetime explosion. We had a lazy morning cruise all the way up to Port Neville. We're here. We're going to go check out the beach, and there's also an old government dock that we're going to have a look at. Then we're going to go in the dinghy further down this inlet and see what we can find. I'm really hoping that we see a bear at least once on this trip up north, because I don't want to leave this whole area without having seen a bear. We've been exploring in the dinghy all around the place today, and it's been really fun. And the best bit is coming to shore and finding berries. These ones are huckleberries, and there's heaps and heaps of little bushes all over the place, and they're my favourite type. They're kind of sour, but sweet at the same time. Next, we sailed up to Alert Bay, where all of the locals were super kind. They're known for having the world's tallest totem pole, which we had to check out. It looks even taller in person. We also visited a centuries-old First Nations burial ground where memorial totem poles marked many of the graves. After that quick stop, it was on to Port McNeill to figure out our fuel tank capacity once and for all. I managed to get all the fuel, or the diesel, out of the tank, 6 jerry cans, so 120 litres. And it's completely empty. Well, the last jerry can was like 15 litres full, so 115 litres. So now we're going to find out, we're going to fill up the tank completely and find out how much fuel it can take. So hopefully it's around 300 litres, we're hoping. We were told maybe 200 by the previous owner, but they really weren't sure. And we're pretty sure we've motored for a really long time without filling up. So we think it's at least 300, but we'll find out shortly. What's your guess how much fuel we've got?
Well, we put 20 litres in.
Yeah, we just put 20 litres. That's how we're actually motoring now.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that we're gonna put 350 litres in.
All right, I'm gonna guess 280, and so we've got a total of 300. That's my guess.
We We know it'll fit at least 5 liters now.
This is going to take a while. Definitely never filled up this much.
That is literally the best.
Total tank of 450.
Total tank of 450.
Yes.
That's so good.
It is. So much more than we thought. The attendant said he'd never seen people so excited with a big fuel bill. Even though it's most of our budget for Alaska, it means less worries in those few places in the world with no wind. As we left the fuel dock for our new anchorage, still on a high, we had the pleasure of seeing an old, tall sailing ship. We also saw some sweet wildlife. We were moving on to our final anchorage at the northern tip of Vancouver Island. This will be our jump-off point for Haida Gwaii, formerly known as the Queen Charlotte Islands and affectionately known as the Canadian Galapagos because of its untamed beauty. The crossing will be our longest sail yet, our first ever overnight passage, and our first time sailing in shifts. Not to mention our first time in the open ocean. After a long night of taking down and putting up sails because of wildly changing wind directions, we finally got some consistent wind and were able to put the sails up and keep them up. If you can see, but we can see mountains through the fog. Finally, it's been a long night. We're almost at Haida Gwaii. It was a long night. It was our first ever overnight passage and first time doing shifts as well. And to be honest, it was kind of terrifying being out here in the middle of nowhere, in the dark. Couldn't see anything, obviously. No other boats around.
Luckily we had radar.
Yeah, so we could see, but that's why I know there was no other boats around. And yeah, pitch black. I felt really seasick during my shift, so I was just sitting out here feeling sorry for myself and was kind of happy to go to bed and fell asleep straight away.
Yeah, I pulled a bit of a longer shift so she could sleep in.
Yeah.
But the morning has been fantastic. I mean, we're almost here, and I guess afternoon we could say.
And it looks like the clouds are kind of starting to part ahead of us, so hoping for some sunshine. We're finally here, almost. This is Haida Gwaii. It looks beautiful already so far. We're not too far from our anchorage that we're going to go to tonight and have a bit of a rest and a look around and then see what to do for the next few days. As one of Canada's most protected national parks, this part of Haida Gwaii requires an in-person orientation before going ashore. The orientation is held at a town in the centre of the islands named Skidegate. Because we were coming from the south, which isn't common, they made an exception and provided us with an online orientation. With newfound confidence from completing our first overnight 160 nautical mile ocean crossing, we decided we deserved a captain's chair at the inside helm. The chair had been sitting in the boat for quite some time, and after finishing our orientation we quickly installed it, then made our way to shore.
Well, it's in. It reclines, kind of. The wheel gets in the way a little, but we haven't had a captain's chair in a long time, and now we have one.
Nice. So we've got an inside helm if we need it.
yeah, inside helm for when it gets gross outside. And I'm gonna cover this chair with a tablecloth or something right away because it's too white.
Super wet. We woke up this morning to some beautiful sunshine. It's really, really nice here in Haida Gwaii. Darcy's doing some paperwork so that we can stay in the national park, and while he's doing that, I really, really want a table outside. We've got a good idea about what to do in the long term out here in the cockpit, but it takes a fair bit of fiberglass work and quite a bit of time to do that idea. So for the moment, and today, my job is going to be to fill drill and install this table leg, and then I've got a piece of plywood from inside, just a small piece, that I'm going to fiberglass so it's watertight and then attach to the leg, and then we'll have a little table outside. Before completing the table, Darcy received permission to go to Hot Springs Island, so we decided to finish the table on the way. So I was just rudely interrupted by some orcas. I'll get back to my fiberglassing now if it hasn't kicked. Hasn't, so that was fun. We soaked here for hours, relaxing in the natural hot springs. We had looked at the weather forecast before we came to shore and knew tonight had good wind to make another huge jump north. This would mean another overnight crossing. If all goes well, we'll see you all next Friday in Alaska.